Hey, if you're a psychology student, I'm guessing the word statistics might make you just a little bit nervous. And hey, I totally get it. But what if I told you it's not some monster you have to fear, but actually the single most powerful tool you have for understanding the human mind? Let's start building your toolkit.
Just think about it for a second. You read about some new therapy for anxiety. How do the researchers actually know it's effective and that the results weren't just a random fluke? How can we feel confident about any of our findings on human behavior? Well, that's the big question we're going to tackle today.
And the answer? It lies in inferential statistics. The best way to think about it is like a detective's toolkit. It helps us look at the clues from a small group of people to make a really confident guess, that's the inference, about what's probably happening in the entire population. It's the science of making a smart leap.
So let's open up this kit. Our very first tool is one that helps us understand a single piece of data in a whole sea of information. We're talking about the z-score, and it's all about pinpointing location and meaning.
Okay, think of a z-score as a kind of statistical GPS coordinate. So instead of just knowing someone's test score was an 85, the z-score tells you exactly where that 85 is on the map of everybody else's scores. Is it average, right in the middle of town? Or is it way out in the suburbs, kind of unusual? The z-score pinpoints it for you.
And here's where it gets really cool. This is its superpower. How in the world do you compare a stress score, rated from 1 to 10, with an exam score that's out of 100? You can't, right? They're totally different scales. But z-scores act like a universal translator. They convert both scores onto one standard scale. And just like that, you can compare apples and oranges.
All right, deep breath. Don't let the different letters here scare you because the logic is exactly the same. We just used different symbols to signal what we're working with. The Greek letters mu and sigma are for when you somehow know data from an entire population. The M and SD are for when you have what's much more common, a smaller sample. But look at the recipe. It's identical. Your score minus the average divided by the average spread. That's it.
Let's make this real. Imagine a study on student stress, rated from 0 to 10. Let's say the average score, the mean, is 6.43, and the standard deviation is 2.56. Now, one student scores a perfect 10. To find their z-score, we just plug in the numbers. That's 10 minus 6.43, and we divide that by 2.56. That gives us a z-score of about 1.4. So what does that mean? It tells us their stress level is 1.4 standard steps above the average.
Okay, so we have our z-score, our GPS coordinate. But what's the map we're putting it on? For that, we turn to one of the most famous and important shapes in all of statistics, the normal curve.
You've probably seen this beautiful bell-shaped curve before. It's so important because a ton of things in nature and psychology just naturally fall into this pattern. Things like IQ scores, height, even levels of anxiety in a population. Most people tend to cluster right around the average, in the middle, and then you see fewer and fewer people at the extreme high and low ends. And what's amazing is this shape follows a really predictable pattern.
And because it's so predictable, we know exactly what to expect. If you take just one step, that's one standard deviation, away from the center on either side, you'll find about 68% of everyone. The vast majority of people live here.
Now, take 2 steps out from the middle, and you've just captured about 95% of all the scores.
And if you go 3 steps out, you're at 99.7%. That's basically everybody. Anything beyond that point is super, super rare.
And that predictability, well, that's everything. It means we can use a tool called a z-table. You can think of it like a statistical cheat sheet to find the precise percentage of people who score higher or lower than any single person. It turns our simple GPS coordinate into a really powerful statement about probability.
And that word, probability, is our next key ingredient. So if z-scores and the normal curve are our map and our coordinates, then probability, that's the set of rules that governs the entire investigation. It's the logic of chance. Honestly, this is a concept you already know. The probability of rolling a 2 on a normal 6-sided die. It's just one successful outcome out of 6 total possibilities, right? So the probability is 1 in 6. In statistics, we're just applying that same simple logic to our data.
Now, for the most part, we just need 2 basic rules. The first is the OR rule. We use this when we want to know the probability of one thing or another thing happening. Like, what are the odds of rolling a 3 or a 4 or a 5 on a die? You just add their individual probabilities together. Simple. Then there's the AND rule. We use that when we want to know the probability of 2 things happening together. For instance, flipping a coin and getting heads and then flipping it again and getting heads a second time. For that, you multiply their probabilities.
All right, we've got our tools. We understand the rules of chance. But who are we even studying? Obviously, we can't study every single person on the planet, so we have to pick a representative group. And this is the art of sampling.
There are really two main ways to go about this. The first, probability sampling, is the gold standard. It means every single person in the population you care about has an equal, known chance of being picked for the study. Then you have non-probability sampling, where that's not the case. The selection isn't random.
And trust me, the method you choose has huge consequences for your research. A simple random sample, which is kind of like drawing names out of a hat, gives you the best shot at truly representing the whole group. But sometimes that's not possible, so you might use a shortcut, like convenience sampling, which is basically just studying whoever's easy to get, like students in your intro psych class. Here's the key takeaway. Your sampling method directly impacts how confident you can be when you try to apply your findings to the rest of the world. So you have to choose wisely.
So, there you have it. That's your foundational toolkit. Z-scores, the normal curve, probability, and sampling. And now, we get to the best part.
And here it is, the absolute best news of all. You are almost never going to have to calculate this stuff by hand. There are amazing programs out there like Jamovi or JASP, and they're designed to do all of the heavy computational lifting for you with just a few clicks.
And this right here is what I really want you to take away from all this. Your job isn't to be a human calculator. Your job is to be the detective. It's to understand these concepts well enough so you can ask smart questions and then interpret the story that the data is trying to tell you. You get to be the storyteller.
Look, I know this can feel like a lot when you're starting out. It's kind of like learning a new language. But I promise you, with a little bit of practice, the symbols will start to look familiar, the concepts will click into place, and you'll begin to see statistics for what it really is, an incredibly powerful method for discovery.
So, as you start to build this toolkit, I want you to start thinking about that. Don't focus on the math. Focus on the questions you can now start to answer. What mysteries about the human mind, about our behavior, about society, what mysteries will you be the one to uncover? The tools are now in your hands, so go be curious.